Chapter 14. By the time they returned, Barton was equal parts furious and exhausted. The majority of the new ward lines had been set, and Silver's crew was pushed to work for 40 hours straight, because they should have been rested after the 3-day break they got thanks to Silver's foolish stunt. Among the troops, though, Silver's team enjoyed the respect that came with celebrity, but missed their anonymity. Bram and Kieran hadn't said a word about their conversation 2 days earlier. At first, she was terrified that they might pry for a reaction from her, but they hadn't asked. It made her almost wish they would say something, but the unspoken agreement to let it pass only solidified the way she had decided to feel about them. "Bram, we need to get back inside the ward line," Silver hissed under her breath. "I told you. There is something I need to check on." "Come on, Silver," Kieran whined. "We have been at it for almost 2 days straight. Can't you at least let us sleep a few hours before you drag us off to the next disaster?" Bram crossed his arms and gave Silver a grim look. He didn't speak, but he didn't argue either. "You want to know why I am in such a hurry?" Silver said. 6 days, Kieran. That's how long it's taken for the barrier to move each time. The incubation period for Greyrod is 2 days. It takes at least 1 day for someone to notice and report the first case. That means the carrier spreads the disease during the 2 days we spend shifting the ward line, then sets up just outside the barrier by the 6th day, and it all starts over again. Today is the 6th day. By the time we get back from the interview I want to conduct, there will be a new case reported, and Barton will pull half of the wardens from inside the quarantine zone and half from outside it to set the new ward line. If it breaks containment again, he will pull all of them. After that, the city will be lost, Bram said, his eyes growing wide. Silver nodded. That means we have about 12.5 days to stop whoever is doing this. If you think you're tired now, just wait. We will be sleeping in shifts 2 hours at a time before this is over. The two men stared back at Silver, dumbstruck. What do you mean, whoever is doing this? Bram finally asked. Neither of you thought it was just jumping the lines all on its own, did you? Silver scoffed and shook her head. The ward line has moved twice, and security has tightened by magnitudes each time. This is intentional. If someone escaped trying to avoid the quarantine zone, you'd see another wave of outbreaks in the smaller villages around Harbor's Edge. There hasn't been one newly reported case since the outbreak in the city. It's intentional. I'd bet my life on it. Perhaps all of our lives, Bram said with a sigh. All right, let's go, Kieran. No use arguing now. We are headed back toward the docks. Silver paused a moment before following, considering whether Bram was right. Did she risk their lives by getting involved? No, that wasn't fair. Her actions with Trig had certainly been brash, but if she didn't stop this plague soon, the city would be lost, and the Aegis leadership couldn't find the culprit because they weren't even looking. She rushed to catch up, then pulled ahead, leading the men down the hill. Once they were through the gate and wearing their plague gear, the walk down to the slums of Wharf 9 was eerily nostalgic. Silver considered the 2-story wooden buildings that lined the patchy cobbles that checkered the road as it gave way to dirt. Each block she passed carried more signs of the disrepair that followed poverty. The feeling was heightened by the lack of foot traffic that usually filled the streets, and the failing light of the evening wasn't helping. She thought back to the woman, handing coins to the group of kids. The help that the reclaimers offered in their relief efforts was often met with skepticism, so she hadn't wanted to call attention to the woman, despite the feeling that something was off about her charity. More than once, her team had found a soldier disoriented, drained of essence, and well on his way to becoming food for a wraith in limbo, only to have their help refused, as if they were grifters trying to steal his empty shard pouch. Thinking of the woman sent a chill down her spine that made her reconsider whether it was unfair to be met with such scrutiny. Silver found the line of pillar stones she had inspected over a week earlier. They looked lonely, standing dark and dormant, with no shards to power them, or ward wire to tie them together. She followed it down the street, and came to the place where she had spotted the children. She looked around, trying to guess where the children might live. The pillar stood at the corner of a larger street that ran parallel to the water, and a smaller one that led downhill toward it. The crossing was far enough from the bay that the water was too far away to see, but close enough to smell. The area was mostly residential, but a few random businesses interrupted the otherwise sad row of tenement buildings. The walls were all made of treated but unpainted wood that gave the block the same weathered grey appearance that pervaded the district containing Wharf 9. She had assumed she could ask around and find the kids based on a description, but looking around at the empty streets, she realized that wouldn't be as easy as she expected. She walked across the grit of the dirt road, past a sign marking the grocer, noting the dark windows and locked doors. With no shipments coming in or out of the district, the proprietor had no reason to tend his shop. The same was true of the net loft, another 50 feet down the lane. The nets hanging neatly on display would all end as ash in the purifying fires that the burn crews would bring when every saw had become a scar. Silver spotted light falling from a door across the street. In the last vestiges of failing light, she could just make out a white sign with purple, green, and brown vials painted on top. Of course, an apothecary would find reason to stay open. People would buy boiled crabgrass if they thought it might ease their suffering. Burn poultices didn't require expensive ingredients, many of which could be found growing along the streets. A bell above the door clinked as she entered, but the sound was hollow. The clapper had either been lost or removed in favor of a quieter entry. An older man and woman sat behind the counter, working together on several concoctions emanating scents that, while potentially bearable on their own, combined to force Silver to stifle a gag. "That's far enough, Bluecoat. No offense, but if you've been treating the ill, I'd just as soon you stay where you are," the old man said firmly. Silver noticed Bram straighten at being mistaken for Aegis. Even if he bristled when the topic came up, she knew he missed being enlisted. "We mean no harm, sir," Silver began. "I came to ask about some kids I saw hanging out on the street about a block east of here. I noticed them about a week ago and have some questions for them. It may be valuable in stopping the spread." "I don't know any kids," the man said. Silver noticed the woman twitch in recognition at their mention. "Please," Silver said. "We actually aren't from the Aegis. We're with the Reclaimers. I am following a hunch here, but I'm afraid that someone is spreading the plague on purpose. Any help we could get would be very much appreciated." "The Reorgans," the woman said softly. "Hush, woman. We don't know these people, and the last thing we need is a bunch of soldiers sniffing around here. Things are hard enough as it is." "Hush yourself," the woman said, louder this time. She brandished a steaming agitator, making the man step back to avoid being splattered with boiling droplets. "Everyone's dismissed this Reaper's wife talk as nonsense, but I say every rumor holds a shard of truth." "Reaper's wife?" Silver asked. The woman sighed but answered. "Something the kids have been talking about. They think a ghost has been visiting children, bearing gifts like some wintertide spirit, even made some ditty about it. You'll have to get that from one of them, though. I don't know the words, and you wouldn't want to hear me sing them if I did." The man grunted in affirmation, earning him another few droplets from the steaming agitator. Silver frowned at her words. It more or less confirmed her suspicions, but it bothered her that there was no mention of rumors surrounding this Reaper's wife in the ranks of the Aegis. "Where can I find the Reorgan child? Does he live around here?" Both the man and the woman winced at that. "The child you'll find in the dirt outside of Sirona's churchyard, about 3 blocks north. He fell ill 4 days ago. An unusually aggressive case. They buried him yesterday. His father seems to be one of the lucky ones, though. Not a sore on him. You can find him at tenement 245. It's 2 blocks south toward the water. Ask for Dirk, but don't expect a warm welcome. The man is angry in a way that may never fade. His wife is still sick, but I think she'll pull through." Silver paused, taking it all in. The boy was gone, but she could still get her answers. "Thank you," Silver said. "I am sorry to hear about the boy, but we will follow up with Dirk. You have been very helpful." The woman nodded grimly, then spoke, a quiver entering her voice. "Stop this sickness. Even if you're mainly sparing the wealthy districts at this point, no child deserves to die, especially not like that. They left and followed the directions, wrapped in the silence of the evening curfew. You know it's not our job to solve this, Silver, Kieran said quietly. We could just take it to Barton and let the Bluecoats handle it. If someone is spreading it on purpose, they are sure to target anyone looking to stop them. I know it's not our job, Kieran. Putting on the grey means taking the jobs that the Aegis ought to do, especially when they're not doing them. They walked through the breezeway on the first floor of the tenement building, and Silver knocked on the door marked 245. There was no answer, so Silver nodded to Bram, who stepped in front of her and knocked hard enough that dust fell from the doorframe. Muffled curses came from inside, as well as a crash, as if something fell. The door opened and the smell of alcohol bloomed, along with a man whose face shook with fury at the sight of the plague suits, his bloodshot eyes making the state of his sobriety abundantly clear. Now? You show up now? My son is dead, my wife is trying to survive on short rations, and the Aegis sends someone to beat down our door now. Well, go on then, Bluecoat. State your demands. What else could you possibly want from my family? Doors along the breezeway opened as curious tenants heard the commotion and couldn't resist the break in the monotony of quarantine. Silver didn't want a confrontation with the man, but she knew that more ears meant more stories, and better odds at a useful bit of information. What we want, Silver said forcefully, causing the man's face to redden further. How about a chance to end this plague? I want your son's death to mean something. I am here because I think there is more to the plague jumping the quarantine barriers than mere chance or a break in protocol. Everyone who sees plague gear accuses my coat of being blue. I am a reclaimer. My friends here are reclaimers. We choose to be among you here. We are not from Harbor's Edge, but we came here to help. I saw a woman give your son and a few of his friends a copper when the last ward line was being set. I didn't say anything at the time. Maybe I should have, and, for that, I am sorry. The man's mouth opened and closed, like a fish. Not knowing how to respond, he let out a breath and nodded. Silver continued. I need to know if he was the first to get sick. I also need to know if his friends got sick at the same time. A child emerged from the dark, 2 doors down, face pocked with sores and scars alike. The child's father blocked most of the doorway, so the child couldn't exit all the way. I was there, miss, the small voice said. The Reaper's wife paid us a coin and got us sick. We've been telling everyone. Told the soldiers and the doctors too. Only our parents listen. The Reaper's wife? Why do you call her that? Silver asked. She doesn't take us right away. She just marks us and tells him to come. He got Rovi, missed me, only barely. Riorgan recoiled at the mention of his son. The little voice began to sing. Silver recognized the tune from her childhood, but the words were different, molded to what the children saw and felt. The Reaper's wife has sparkling eyes, and copper coins, and little lies. Don't take her bread, don't take her string, don't take a single pretty thing. Several other children's voices joined in, their words becoming louder and more insistent with every word. The Reaper's blind, but he can smell. The mark she leaves, the rot, the bell. One swing to miss, one swing to scar, one swing to take you where they are. So, shut the door and hide your face. Don't touch her gifts, don't leave a trace. If Reaper comes and calls your name, run fast, run far, don't play his game. Silver looked to Kieran and Bram, wide-eyed at the display. The parents shooed them back into their homes, leaving her team alone again with Riorgan. Sorry about that, the big man said. Didn't know you were reclaimers. We've just been telling the Bluecoats about it and they won't listen. The kids have the right of it, singing aside. We've been trying to find her ourselves. She's no wraith, she's flesh and blood just the same as all of us. I don't know why she hasn't died of the rot, but we mean to put an end to her all the same. It's just been hard. We have sightings of her inside the ward line and some from outside. We have trouble communicating back and forth across the ward line, and, without help, we haven't been able to pin her down. Silver sighed and nodded, the respirator crackling. We can help. They are working us full shifts, but we will help where we can. And I will try to get someone in the Aegis to listen. Who do you have on the outside that is working on this, and how can I find them? There's an old community center in the Tavern district some families are using to organize and drink, since they shut down all the pubs in the quarantine. Best to leave that part off with the bluecoats though. Ask for the Death Watchers and say I sent you. I won't get my hopes up that you can turn any heads in the Aegis, but I won't turn down help if offered. None of us can afford to. A truth we all must face, Silver said, then waved to the man as he closed his door. She couldn't see Chiron's face, but she could tell from his eyes that he knew they wouldn't be getting much rest after what they learned. She was proud when he was the first to start walking up the hill. He knew what had to be done.